Welcome to the SwitchClicksPodcast, episode 47, recorded on August 12th, 2021. Today I'll be discussing the Nintendo World presentation that happened yesterday, and I'll give my thoughts on the games that were showcased. My name's Dakota, and today I'm doing a solo episode. So yesterday was August the 11th, and Nintendo had their, basically, about every 3 or 4 months, they do a indie presentation. There were some pretty good games in there. To me, indie games kind of need just a certain type of gameplay, just for me personally. I'll go through some of the games that were interesting to me. I'd say the first one that was interesting to me was Garden Story. I believe that they announced Garden Story last time they did an Indie World, I believe in August last year, in the same presentation that Bear and Breakfast was. They didn't really show much gameplay of Garden Story then, but now they did, and it is totally my type of game, where you're kind of going around, and it's almost like an Animal Crossing RPG, where you have to defeat enemies, and it looks like it was actually released today, so I might honestly pick it up and might do a review on it. It's totally my type of game, where you have complete control over the creative view of your town, and you're going to have some actually heart-pumping gameplay in between. I think the other game that looked kind of interesting was TOEM, a photo adventure. It's kind of the monochromatic, kind of top-down game. Semi-3D, but with 2D illustrations in a 3D world, which was really interesting. And then also there's this camera mechanic that you can literally go in a first-person mode of your little character in this 3D world and, I guess, take pictures. It wasn't very clear on what the pictures did in the game, but I kind of liked the art style and just the difference between the 3D and the 2D illustrations was really interesting. I think the next game that kind of interested me was Shovel Knight Pocket Edition. Something you should know about me is Shovel Knight is literally my favorite indie game of all time. I was a little bit disappointed by King's Cards, I believe, the most recent DLC for the full game. I really hope they make a sequel of the game. But this does look kind of interesting. It is kind of the indie game that blew up, and then they make spin-offs of it. So the go-to spin-off for indie games are puzzle games, because they are quite easy to make. You just need some rules and some addicting gameplay, and it should work. And I'm not the biggest puzzle game fan, but this does look kind of interesting that it is chain-based, almost like Puyo Puyo Tetris. The next game that kind of interested me was Tetris Effect Connected. I will say I did play Tetris Effect on the Oculus, so in VR, and that is the number one way to play this game. It's very weird that they're thinking that they're going to put this game on consoles, and it's technically not even an indie game. It is an established brand, but anyways, playing it in VR is just the weirdest vibe you can ever have. Like, I love Tetris, but playing Tetris with so much going on the screen is kind of nuts. Playing it 2 players on this tiny screen on the Nintendo Switch is not going to give the same vibe. So if you do have access, you should play it on a VR headset. But I know everybody does not have that. I think the other game that kind of interested me was Islanders. It looks to be kind of a tycoon island builder with kind of rule set to, I think one example was, to build a village, you need a certain amount of things in your area, natural things. To build a sawmill, you need a certain amount of trees in your area. I thought this would be kind of cool because it's kind of vibey. Should be silent. Nothing should be happening too much. It is, holy crap, it's only $6.64 Canadian. Whoa, I might just pick this up. Holy crap. And it's out now. Nice! The other game that kind of interested me was, I guess, 100 Days? It looked kind of interesting, but a lot of UI, which I think is a problem on the Nintendo Switch unless you have touchscreen support. If I'm playing this on my television or monitor, the UI needs to be like amazing with the joystick and D-pad, as much of a D-pad that the Nintendo Switch has, honestly. It looks to be like another tycoon game where you're building a farm, and I guess making wine, because it is called 100 Days Wine Making Simulator. I think the other game that kind of interested me was Gang Beasts. I have played Gang Beasts on the console, and it's great to have it on Nintendo Switch. It will literally be perfect on the Nintendo Switch, as long as it can run. I know it can get a little bit buggy and chuggy on a PC, even doesn't matter what kind of PC you have, it can get chuggy. But it'll be an amazing game for the Switch. Hopefully you can have more than 4 players, and they have like 8 players, because that would be so much more fun. The other game that kind of interested me was Lumberjack. Kind of another bear game with a pun, which is kind of weird that we have 2 in a row with Bear and Breakfast. And it looks just to be like a top-down 3D action game, where you're just playing as a bear with an axe, and you chop through forests and destruction sites. And you can have, I guess, friend companions. It does look kind of generic, I will say, but the art style was very Polygon. And I know people are probably thinking, why aren't you mentioning Axiom Verge 2? I never played the original. I'm not the biggest fan of Metroidvania games, but I think that because the game, I believe, is out that night and has a physical edition with both games, it could be very interesting. Metal Slug's Tactics, wasn't that announced at E3? Anyways, it looks fine. Nothing too expansive, I'd say, to what they have initially. And I guess Slime Rancher Portable Edition is also coming out. I didn't get the idea of Slime Rancher. I don't know why it's so popular. It seemed kind of generic. But I might give it a try when it does come out. I know this was quite a small episode, but there wasn't much to talk about this week, but they did have this Nintendo Direct. Sorry, Indie Direct, not Nintendo Direct. So I still wanted to talk about my thoughts about it. Thank you for joining me in discussing the Indie World presentation. We'd love it if you could follow us on Twitter and listen to future episodes on Spotify and iTunes. Join our Discord for insight on future episodes, and we'll see you next time on the SwitchClicksPodcast.